Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. In this video I'm going to rank the top 3 ways of making money in this life. You need money, let's face it. We've already established in the previous video that we need money before we can talk about saving, before we can talk about investing. So in this video I'm going to rank them from the hardest to the easiest. Number 1, doing a business. There's this misconception that doing business is investing. Not true. Doing business is pure active income. There's a difference between investing and making money through active means. Active income is when you have to be present in whatever you're doing. You have to be actively, like day in, day out, spend hours doing that. But with investment, you can set it up and forget it and be earning your returns on investment. With active income, you have to be there. So that means that business is pure active income. I know that a lot of times on this channel, whenever I talk about how much you stand to earn from a specific investment, maybe a government instrument, some people come in the comments and say, this is so small. If I put this amount of money in business, I know how much I will be making. They're not the same. Business is active income. You have to be there to do the business, but the person that invested in whatever investment they invested in doesn't have to be there 247. They just set it up and forget it. Money will be coming in while the person is doing another job. That's the main difference between a business and an investment. One of the downsides of business is that it requires a lot of capital. Even when you start the business small, you will notice that, for instance, if it's a buying and selling business, in buying and selling, you need capital to keep the business going, especially if the business is moving. I understand at the beginning, maybe you just finished learning the business and you just opened your shop. Maybe you don't have a lot of customers. I understand that you may not need a lot of goods in your shop at that time. But once the business starts moving, once you've established your position as somebody that is selling this thing and people know you, I'm going to tell you that without a huge capital, that business, you'll be crying every day at your shop. Because somebody will come and ask for this, or even if you have that, if it's something that comes in sizes, you don't have the big size, you only have the medium size and all that, person will just leave your shop and go to another person's shop. And let me tell you, the only reason that you don't have those in stock is because of capital. You don't have capital. So that's number 1 thing. It requires a lot of overhead. Business requires a lot of overhead. Just imagine, let's say you're selling fashion items. You have to find a shop. You have to pay for the shop. Whether you sell or you don't sell, you have to get the shop. You have to pay for the shop. You have to stock the goods. Assuming you're not selling in front of your house, you have to take a transport to go there. You have to pay a salesperson. Assuming the business is growing, you have to pay a salesperson because you don't always have to be at your shop. Maybe when you first started, you can lock up your shop and go for a lunch break because, you don't really have a lot of customers. But if your shop is such a place that people queue up to buy things from, you can't afford to leave your shop. You have to have either sales girls, or if it's my Igbo brothers, you have apprentices. In a business, overhead is high. It requires a lot of money. Second disadvantage of a business in a country like Nigeria, one thing will happen today and it will affect your businesses. Okay, all businesses require suppliers. So increase in cost of fuel affects your business because it's means of it's transportation that they use to bring the goods to your shop, right? And once that goes up, the cost of goods and services will go up. Previously, before that increase, you bought 1,000 articles. But after selling, you see that because the prices of things have increased, even with the people that are manufacturing as well, manufacturing those goods, so it has affected them as well. So they increase their prices. So you find out that with the money you just got from your previous stock, that you can only buy 90. So it affects the business. Another thing that affects the business is policies. Again, part of government policies. Government policies usually affect the businesses a lot. Okay, if your business is one that involves imported goods, selling of imported goods. Recently in the news, I heard that the importation duties were increased in Nigeria. I don't know by how much, and I don't know which were affected, but I know that I heard in the news that import duties were increased. So all these things are what affects your business. Like buying and selling business is usually affected by government policies. The second way you can make money actively is by providing service. I like this one because the overhead is not so much, though depending on the niche, the overhead can be a lot. For instance, if you want to open a service provision business of catering to, you're a wedding venue decorator, like all these people that decorate wedding venues, put up big tents. If your target audience is the rich and mighty, the people that will bring the big cash, like 10 million, people pay 10 million just for venue for weddings in Nigeria these days. You have to get the tent, you have to get the flowers and chairs and tables and all that. You have to have these in your possession before you can start the business. You have to have several as well so that your customers can choose. This one involves a lot of money, even though that is something that you invest in and you keep reusing them, but the upfront investment can be very high. And you can say, okay, I want to start small. Still, even when you start small in that kind of niche, you still get to spend a lot of money. You may even also need to have a truck that will be carrying all those things from your parking store to, assuming you don't have the parking store at the same place where the venue is and all that. Assuming you have a location where you have the tent that people can come. Some of your customers may say, oh, we don't want to do it here. We want to do it in a hotel that is here and here. So you have to carry all your stuff to there. And then we talk about transportation as well in this. And then you talk about staff. You have to employ staff because you cannot do it alone. You have to employ a lot of people. A lot of times with manpower, because some of these setting up of tents and canopies involves a lot of heavy lifting. You need people that are strong, kakaraka. So you employ all these people, whether you have a job or you don't have a job, you have to keep them on a payroll. You may even decide to, okay, some of them, we just hire you on the day of the event. We don't need you to be here and we pay you monthly because there's nothing really that you're doing here apart from weekends when there are these events. But you still have to have core staff that are working for you. Yeah. Managing people is not easy, let alone paying salaries. Whether you have a job, you're contracted to do a job or you're not contracted to do a job, you still pay these people. So I'm a little bit here and there with that. Okay, this one is an expensive overhead to start. But if you're providing other kinds of services, for instance, if you're teaching people something online, you can be a teacher online. This thing we're doing here on YouTube is a teaching service provision online. All you need is your phone. You already have a phone. Maybe you may need to invest in a phone with a better quality camera. Yeah. So that's an upfront investment that you have to make. Then you can invest in lighting, you invest in a laptop for editing your videos. What else? You need to invest in data. Yeah, because these days online, especially if you're on YouTube, uploading a video on YouTube chops a lot of data. So you have to be ready to be spending on data every single day. And then sometimes there are some tools that you need to pay for, like digital tools that you may need to pay for, or courses that you may even need to take to be able to carry out some of your duties. A lot of people living on YouTube, depending on your niche, for instance, if you're in the travel niche, it's not cheap. Your overhead costs include applying for visas. If you're from Nigeria with a weak passport, applying for visas, flight tickets, or even bus tickets if you're only vlogging about your area. It's not cheap, all those things. And then some people need to buy clothes, extra special clothes. If you're in the fashion or lifestyle niche, you have to keep up with the lifestyle that you're projecting, right? So all this is you have to consider, but I still find it much better than business because a lot of these tools you need, props you need, you just invest in them once and then you let your brain do the rest of the work. You can always find a service provision money-making avenue that has less overhead so that you can keep your costs low, especially initial cost. That is why digital knowledge sells a lot these days. So far with the two I've mentioned, their downside is that you don't even know the amount of money you will make at the end of the month. It's not sure. For somebody doing a business, you don't know how much you're going to make. Some months will be good, some months will be bad. It depends on how much money people have in their pockets. The same thing with service provision. You don't know how much you're going to make from being a plumber. 1 month you may get a huge contract that lasts for 3 months in a big, maybe a developer in Lagos calls you for a job and you're busy for 3 months, and then you get a dry run for the rest of the year. Yeah, you don't even know where your next contract is coming from, where your next income is coming from. Then the most sure banker one, being an employee, like a company hires you, you go there every day, do your work, and they pay you your salary. Before you even get the job, you know how much they will be paying you. So at the end of each month, you've already even calculated your spendings in your head. So people will even go and borrow money and spend on what they need and in the middle of the month maybe, because they know that sure banker at the end of the month they're getting this amount of money. This is the most sure banker way of making active income. I'm not saying that your job is secure. No, I'm not talking about that one, because even a business can fail. Even a service provision business can fail. Employment job, 9 to 5 job, you can wake up one day and you go to the office, they tell you this company is going under, all of you are sacked, or you specifically, we are going to lay you off because we need to lay off some people and you're not performing very well. Even if you think that all these years you're the best employee, you're the employee of the year. So anything can happen, but at least as long as you have that job, you know how much you'll get at the end of the month, making it the most sure banker, the surest way of making active income. You may come and tell me, what of in Nigeria where there are no jobs? That's the subject for another video. That is where you have to hold your leaders accountable in your country to make your country good, because when a country is good, businesses will thrive, industries will be built, companies will come in, like all these international companies will want to have an office in Nigeria, thereby creating employment, so that once you finish school, you know that there is a job waiting for you. That's the subject for another video. But as far as ranking these three, employment job is the most sure banker way of making active income. Of course, depending on where your office is, you will spend on transportation. Every other person spends on transportation, but you're definitely spending on transportation on a regular basis, because you go to the same place to do your work every day. Unless you work remotely, you're allowed to work remotely some days, but yeah, it's assumed that you have to go to work. For instance, if you're a banker, most bankers have to physically go to work every single day. Because that's where they attend to customers. And then in some industries, you have to dress in a certain way. Like, again, bankers, they have to dress well, so you may have to spend a lot of money for your clothing. In banks, do they give you clothing allowance? I know that in broadcasting, like people that appear on screen on our TVs, I think they give them dressing allowance, right? But I don't know for banks, where you have to dress in a certain way, bang, do they give you a dressing allowance? Let me know, please. I'm curious. So which one is it for you? I know that some people will say, oh, I'll never work for anybody, I'll do my own business. I know, but at the end of the day, if you don't have huge money to set up a business, if you don't even have the business acumen, because this business thing, they learn more. You have to be very good in business. For instance, somebody like me, I'm not good in business. I'm not even good in service provision, because for me, I don't have the patience to be a service provider, because once you mess up, client messes up, I'm littering you one side, I'm telling you my mind. And then as an employee, once I know that I can put in my work, know the work, put in my best, if I feel at any time that I'm not performing well in the job, I've started looking for another job, because I don't want imposter syndrome. I don't want a position where I'll be feeling like, oh, I shouldn't be here, because once you start feeling that way, to start reflecting in your work, and before you know it, they will say this person is not fit for this position. They will even sack you. So I'll even start looking for another place where my skills I'll feel comfortable bringing my field, or where I feel that I'm filling the position adequately. Yeah, I'm not having imposter syndrome. So what do you think about these three sources of active income? Is there any other one that you think should be here that doesn't fall under business, service provision, and paid employment? Let me know below. See you in my next video.